Good evening and welcome to Blurry Photos, your number one source for fake news. I'm Rock Hard.
And I'm up to no good. Top stories tonight. Local village has been terrorized by apparent vampire attacks, causing sales of coconut oil to spike. One resident is quoted as saying, "If the perpetrator thinks we're going to just take this abuse, he can kiss our ass wang."
Researchers were found guilty in the EVP case today after evidence was found to be sound.
New details emerging in last week's shadow person break-in, leading investigators to believe that the situation is not so black and white as once thought.
Shocking news from Tesla Labs today, but first, the latest from Egypt. Archaeologists are in denial as new laws are forcing them to work in the open sun. When questioned, a spokesman said, "Tut, tut, tut. It's Akhenaten to worry about." We expect to hear more tomorrow.
And part 3 of our investigative series, Knowing the Unknown. For 29 years now, we've known the rules. Never feed them after midnight, and never get them wet. But what do we really know about gremlins? Shocking new research shows that we might not understand as much as we thought we did about the care and feeding of gremlins. Rock?
That's right, Upton. It turns out scientists have discovered the 1984 educational film Gremlins is not an actual documentary about gremlins.
But certainly they had at least a scientific advisor on to make sure that their facts were correct.
While he has many degrees, Steven Spielberg is not a scientific advisor. We'll tell you more after the break.
News, hard-hitting, investigative reporting.
Bom, 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 bom. We have the best graphics in the business.
Oh my, you don't even know.
If only this were a visual podcast.
Oh, God.
Your pants would be off right now.
They probably are off. You should put your pants back on. If you're listening to this on the train, it might already be too late.
Hey, everybody, I'm David Flora.
I'm David Stecco.
And this is Blurry Photos.
So blurry, so photos.
Hope everybody's doing okay. We got a good show for you.
We've got a great show for you, and we're back in the saddle.
Yeah, the saddle is being on right now. And God, I just made a verb out of that.
All right.
On.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
now a verb.
You did it.
Wonderful. And we're delivering to you good, rich, frothy, cryptozoological goodness.
I want to step in and help you, but I don't know where you're going. It is rich and frothy. We've made you a crypto latte.
Yeah. I hope you like it. I made a little face in there with the foam.
Aww.
But what creature is it?
Ooh, it's a gremlin.
It's a gremlin. Mm-hmm. We're talking about gremlins today.
That's right, with just a hint of goblin.
Oh,
because
can't you taste it?
Yeah, they're somewhat related.
We'll be covering that in a little bit. We're gonna go through what gremlins are, how long they've been around, what are some encounters that maybe some people have around. And maybe some explanations we'll throw out there.
Troubles with gremlins.
Yeah. Not all gremlins come from Chinese old men in chops.
No, as a matter of fact, almost none of them do.
Right.
I can only think of one time that's where they came from. If I had to put a pin in it, I think just the one.
Yeah. Except for that new batch.
Oh yeah. Well,
I guess they didn't come from.
No, it was just a continuance of someone who was irresponsible with their pet.
Remember, that was the time when people thought that 2 movies were enough, and if the second one didn't cut it, they stopped.
No, or they would just make one movie, and that would be a complete story, as opposed to, from the get-go, deciding it has to be 3 in order to be profitable.
Right. Or you split the third one up into 2.
Oh, man. Welcome to Old Man Rantings. You know what I don't like? The new milk containers. It's hard to find a cardboard container for my milk. Well, they got that twist cap on the side. It's wasteful.
One thing these movies can do, it's get off my lawn.
Kids. Bunch of youths. We're cranky old men.
Yeah, Gremlins, a listener suggestion, I believe. We pulled this one from our listener list.
Our listener?
I went there too, and then I just stopped myself. So.
I couldn't.
So let's talk about some gremlins for you. I think I'd go so far as to say that gremlins are pretty misunderstood, and people are misinformed because of the pop culture about them.
Yeah, that's right. The media.
Sure.
You see, people, this is what I'm saying.
Oh, God, who let him in?
You get the liberal media in there. They're gonna spin you around. They're gonna tell you that if they just want to let all the gremlins in, give them jobs, give them homes, give them some sort of amnesty. It's just a free-for-all for cryptids to come in and take jobs from hardworking people who want those jobs, who need those jobs.
Every time you do this, I can't decide whether it's Rush Limbaugh or Alex Jones from InfoWars.
You are correct.
All right, let's get into some gremlin goodness.
Yeah. Let's just feed this podcast after midnight and see what happens.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see what it pops out here. Little pods of casts. Gremlins, humanoid, stand between 6 and 18 inches tall. Mm-hmm. As described by witnesses, and also described as being blue or green in color. Usually described as having long, pointy ears. And it's also been said they wear green trousers, a red jacket, spats, and sometimes a top hat.
What elegant little bastards.
Yeah. I don't know that many descriptions include that, but there have been enough to have that information somewhere. They are reported to have large feet, possibly with some kind of suction grips on them, and we'll get to why later.
Yep.
And apparently there are gremlins of the air and marine gremlins, and the marine variety are said to have webbed feet and fins.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. They're said to live in underground burrows at airfields, and even that they drink petrol.
What little dicks? Does nothing they do can't they even just accidentally be non-invasive?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry. I'm just really mad about gremlins.
Are you already?
So furious. They're like little Woody Woodpeckers. They just get in your life and they f with your picnic. All you wanted to do was have a picnic, but no, Woody Woodpecker thinks it's funny if you don't.
Yeah, they drink up all your gasoline. They're like, they're very technologically sophisticated, and they completely understand the most complicated of equipment.
But it's like a reverse understanding. It's like it's the same way a person can really study a disease because their whole point is to destroy it.
Yeah. I guess you have to know what you're doing in order to mess it up.
To effectively destroy it.
That's what they told me in music theory classes anyway.
That's right.
I didn't listen.
You need to learn these chords before you can get out there and do your grunging. You little bastards.
Now, they are a type of fae folk, or fairies. Mm-hmm. Now, while their origins are not well known, they could be derivations of goblins, or more likely, what are called brownies, spelled brownies, which I think probably 90% of whoever talks about them calls them brownies. But yeah. I saw that the pronunciation should be brownies.
Probably because it's usually said by a Scotsman.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Brownies.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, Angus. Did you mean brownies?
That's what I said.
I said what I said.
Brownies.
Listen with your ears.
You're pissing me off.
Where's that knuckle of thee?
I cannot even smell it.
So let's break down here a little bit. Just a quick crash course on goblins and brownies.
That's a good pun. Crash course on goblins? Well, goblins? Wait, goblins. It's not a pun. Gremlins would have been a pun.
Sort of. Get your face out of the mic.
Once I did it, I was like, this is accessible. This is weirder than I should be right now.
So a goblin, the name goes back to the Greek koboloi, which means evil spirit. Mm-hmm. Koboloi, you might, if you follow in some of our realms that we delve into with our body parts, kobold is a popular enemy in such things as D&D, Warcraft, all that sort of stuff.
They don't want you to take ye candle, but I go take ye candle. In World of Warcraft, they all scream that.
Sure.
You know, take ye candle.
But koboloi then morphed somehow into goblin, as it crossed the continent.
Well, see, people, it's a failure of the schools.
Get out of here. And the goblins were said to be small, about 3 feet tall, and they were grotesque humanoids, primarily evil, and malicious.
There's never been a good goblin, has there?
I don't think there has, unless there's, a special thing in some fantasy book somewhere that's like, oh, the good goblin.
Yeah, never heard of it.
Yeah.
You know what? If you have, let us know. Correct
Yeah.
our ignorance.
But primarily, they're bad little critters.
Yeah.
Goblins. Now, brownies, I can't say it like that unless I do that.
Yep.
Sorry. These are little house spirits, also around 3 feet tall. They're humanoids that wear all brown, which doesn't help the case for calling them brownies. And they're very responsible in tending to house chores and duties, as long as you are respectful of them and reward them with something like a glass of milk, a bowl of cream.
Again with the dairy. We've
Yeah.
run into this before.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Those guys are lacto addicted.
Brownies can turn into bogarts, who are mischievous and difficult spirits.
These are starting to sound like Pokemons that evolve.
Yeah, the final form
Yeah.
is a bogart. Bogarts, I think, are in Harry Potter.
Yep.
And that's where J.K. Rowling got this. She got a lot of stuff from the lore of the Isles there. But bogarts, think of a bogart sort of along the same lines as you would think of a poltergeist.
Yeah.
Mischievous spirit, just doing nothing but ucking with your shit.
Yeah.
And they're very difficult to get rid of if you've got one. So if you piss off a brownie, it can turn into a bogart, and it will just be a complete nuisance to your life for a long time.
For the cost of a cup of cream,
Right.
you can
Right.
take better care of your brownies. They're helping you. Don't make them turn on you.
They will do your chores and stuff, anything you don't get to during the day, and they're pretty shy. Although they apparently do get attached to humans in the household.
Yep.
But yeah, if you are have bad manners or are lying or cheating some way or another, or if you don't give them their reward, yeah, they'll turn it on you. Now, gremlins, back to gremlins.
Remember those?
Now that we've laid some foundation, gremlins may be a type of bogart associated with tools and machinery.
You know my theory is that they were just lying quietly because we used to have flying machines thousands of years ago, and they used to love to tear those apart, and then we don't have them anymore. So they just we'll just take one of our quaint fey folk 1,000-year naps. What are you doing? Aliens. It was Flora just started miming brushing out a huge amount of idiot hair, and then I didn't know well played. You set the hook well.
You were really fishing in the ancient aliens
Yeah, it really
territory there.
So the gremlins, as we understand them, are remarkably new to the scene.
Yeah. I mean, in the form that we kind of know them as today. Now, gremlins are nothing if not mischievous. They primarily cause minor annoyances and occasionally serious trouble with aircraft.
Yep.
Mostly, they'll sabotage planes to keep them grounded, or they'll fiddle with parts of the plane in the air.
Yep.
Or maybe even cause hallucinations of the crew, like maybe making the ground just suddenly appear in front of the plane.
Come through a cloud.
Right, and there's the
hillside,
ground. Or maybe even rearranging the stars so that they get off course or they, things don't look as familiar. They're
bastards.
Just they're little bastards like that. The things they do, it's not necessarily fatal mischief, right? Mostly it's inexplicable mechanical problems and accidents of that nature. Now, they have to get on the plane when it's on the ground and get off the plane, when it's on the ground. It's not like they just kind of appear and disappear. So they're not going to do something that necessarily puts them in harm's way,
Right.
either. They're not going to.
They're not magical in that they can fly. They're
Right.
just magical in that they are fairy folk.
Right. And, they'll chew through wires. They'll unscrew nuts and bolts. They'll really, really mess with people. But usually, if it becomes too much, it's a joke to them. So if the joke goes too far, it's been said that you can maybe reason with them and be like, listen, as long as you're calm about it. And you're like, listen, we're going to die.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to kind of, stop what you're doing and fix some of it.
Hiding the arming pins on the ordnance, not funny.
Yeah. And we got about 10 seconds to fix that. So can we have some help? Although it's also been said that they could jump off of planes, and the gremlins themselves will do nosedives to the ground. Their feet would spread to slow their fall, like little mini parachutes, because they're so big, I guess. And their top hats would absorb the impact.
Like little torpedoes.
They're almost like little Spring Hill Jacks.
They really are. They are. They're little Irish bastards. But they're not Irish. Now, the interesting thing is that they really gain notoriety. There's mentions of them in World War I with the very first, the advent of aircraft. And then in World War II is when they really gained a lot of popularity as far as being a fey folk, something that was discussed. And is a means of, given how quickly aircraft were produced, how many people who had no experience were suddenly flying aircraft.
Sure. Or working on aircraft.
Right. There were so many things happening suddenly, and there were so many aircraft in the air and so many people's lives depending on that, you're going to get a lot of unexplained problems.
Sure.
And this was a way of expressing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's passing the blame.
Right.
They're
exactly.
scapegoats. So the popular etymology of the name Gremlins is that it comes from the Old English term gremian, which meant to vex. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Although
they are vexful.
Yeah, it's not completely certain if that's where it came from, but it works.
Right.
There's the thought that gremlins appeared in folklore, much like the shoemaker elves. You remember these things?
You heard you saying these? You heard of these things?
You heard of these things, Paul?
Yeah.
They the little cobblers. They would help the shoemaker out, and they're almost like brownies in and of themselves.
Just say brownies.
I know, right? They could have been the craftsmen and inventors of the past, and I even saw something that says maybe even they helped, the famous Benjamin Franklin with his lightning experiments.
Oh.
But at some point, recognition of their contributions waned, and they became disillusioned and turned against man and decided to be mischievous instead of helpful.
Wow, so it's our fault. Awesome. Let me tell you something, Gremlins. The only person whose behavior you're responsible for is your own. So just know that. You can't blame other people for your actions.
By the way, Gremlins, anything Dave says or anything that comes out of his mouth is subject to his apartment, but not the equipment that we're using because it's mine. I love you. You'll have your cream if you want it. And as long as we get this episode out of it.
Oh, that's. I mean, he can say that all he wants, but we both know that anything that's said right now is said by Blurry Photos in its totality in a very legal, binding sense. Gremlins, and I'm calling you out.
Gremlins, can you tell Dave that? Oh man, this is almost as bad as the old Jewish demon.
Oh,
that
I was thinking about that too, and I was going to just say it right out loud.
Yeah, you were going to,
but I'm not.
But you can't.
Yeah, I'm doing that out of respect for you.
Thank you. I just have one of the feelings, man.
Right,
I just have one of the feelings. Stuff. And people are going to start getting pissed off because
of you. I want to talk about it, and you don't. Because of you.
We have talked about it. That's the thing. Go back and listen to our Ghost Taxonomy episode. Mm-hmm. I might even have something in there in the Superstitions episode, but whatever, man.
I don't want to get too far off topic here, but let's get this tacked down as we head into the autumn of the year. David, Flora, are we at any point going to do an episode about the Dybbuk box?
Oh God. I'm not. Probably not.
All right. Look it up, people. Google it.
Let's see how many episodes we do now from now on.
Yeah. Or let's see how many people were to say write an email if they wanted to hear about it.
Oh, great. Yeah. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing.
I'm getting the people on my side here.
People, if you want good quality episodes going forward, don't say a damn thing. If you want a bunch of lost audio, then go ahead, write in. Who gives a f***?
Or if you're wondering why we're arguing, you could listen to our Superstitions episode.
If it's not that one, it's the ghost taxonomy, which is right beside it.
I'm
so
just
who
calling you
cares?
superstitious at this point.
Yeah, you're right. So, where were we? Gremlins began to be observed in modern times by aviators. Like we said, they were alluded to by the British newspaper The Spectator in World War II, which said, quote, "The old Royal Naval Air Service in 1917 and the newly commissioned Royal Air Force in 1918 appear to have detected the existence of a horde of mysterious and malicious sprites whose sole purpose in life was to bring about as many as possible of the inexplicable mishaps which in those days as now trouble an airman's life."
A spot of bother whilst flying.
Excuse me.
Terribly inconvenient. What? We have cables snapped and then difficulty with the altimeter.
I wonder if you might remove yourself from our wing. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm trying to show the old stiff upper lip, but at this point it's becoming quite vexing. I have to ask you to cease and desist your anti-mechanical attempts on my aircraft.
I have to get my man to look at it when we get on the ground.
Yes. Tea. Biscuit.
So that's what the newspaper said there. The term also may have origins in the slang of the Royal Air Force in the 20s and 30s. So the stories have been going around for a while. They just weren't, nobody thought to write them down because it's on the job talk.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
Who's gonna write that down? It's not interesting. It's just what you say, and people that you work with know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Gremlin lore was first published in the April 1942 issue of the Royal Air Force Journal, along with a poem, which Mr. Stecco, I believe you have.
Yeah, I do have
Can
it.
you regale us with that?
I can indeed. It's called The Tale of the Gremlins. It has a little foreword, too, and just to skip ahead, PRU stands for Pretty Ruddy Unlikely. Ooh, that's how I'm reading it. I should do it like that.
Let's do it.
This is the tale of the Gremlins, as told by the PRU. The incredible tale of the Gremlins. But believe me, you slobs, it's true.
Slag off.
When you're 7 miles up in the heavens, and that's a hell of a lonely spot, and it's 50 degrees below zero, which isn't exactly hot. When you're frozen blue like you're a Spitfire, and you're scared of mosquito pink. When you're thousands of miles from nowhere, and there's nothing below but the drink. That's pretty awesome. It's then you'll see the Gremlins. Green and gamboge and gold. Male and female and neuter. Gremlins both young and old.
Neuter.
That's neither here nor there, is it?
Uh-huh.
It's no good trying to dodge 'em. The lessons you learned on the link won't help you try to evade a gremlin. Though you boost and you dive and you think. White ones will wiggle your wingtips. The male ones will muddle your maps. The green ones will guzzle your glycol. And females will flutter your flaps. Am I right, eh?
As long as it gets its taste.
The pink ones will perch on your perspex and dance pirouettes on your prop. There's a spherical middle-aged gremlin who'll spin on your stick like a top. Yikes. They'll freeze up your camera shutters. They'll bite through your aileron wires. They'll bend and they'll break and they'll batter. And they'll insert toasting forks in your tires. That is the tale of the Gremlins, as told by the PRU. Pretty ruddy unlikely to many, but in fact nonetheless to the few.
Too right.
Too right. What's all this, Anna?
Aye, oi.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's great. That's a really fun poem there.
Yeah.
Really, really fun. And apparently, yeah, that was one of the first print references to Gremlins that we have, that we know about anyway.
Yeah. And it was really an RAF thing.
Yeah, they're considered fairies, like we said, but they're still able to work with metals like iron. Iron and fairies don't mix.
Never have.
I think we mentioned that on our Irish Legends podcast.
Probably.
But if we didn't, yeah. Iron, fairies, no go. Mm-mm. But these guys can. So, after World War II, the reports of them died out. That makes sense. The military brass started strongly discouraging talk of gremlins or the gremlin effect. And, of course, that made them drop off even more. And today the term is applied to more malicious creatures due to pop culture and other sources, although before we got the wonderful Spielberg-produced classic
Movie.
now.
The classic.
Yeah.
I think the thing that really kept it especially alive in the American kind of nomenclature was the Twilight Zone episode.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Terror at 20,000 feet.
And that was terrifying.
And it was one of their most popular episodes. I mean, it featured the greatest actor we'll know in our life, and I am not saying that sarcastically whatsoever. One, Mr. William Shatner.
There's someone on the wing, something.
On the wing of the plane. I just love that episode. I love the Twilight Zone in general.
Yeah.
It's such a great show. And a fun fact about the Twilight Zone is the reason why it has this, all the actors have that same Shatnerian vibe to them, is when they were filming the show in Hollywood. It was a low budget thing. It was hard to sell them. Like, no, these are Tales of the Bizarre. And think about the time area that the show came out. That was a tough sell. And so they couldn't get A-list or B-list actors. They would just go around to smaller theaters and just get these kind of local theater actors to do it. And so for them, this was like their big moment. This was their break. And so that's why everything is, stop talking to me. I can't take it. Everything is like, so, come on, Johnny. This is your moment. Why aren't you taking it? Johnny, listen to me. It's just like, it's such an accidental but really consistent style of acting that I really enjoy.
Yeah. No, my glasses. I can't read without my glasses.
Exactly. So that's a little love letter to Twilight Zone. But that was a hugely popular episode, and it's something that everyone...
Yeah. Iconic.
Yeah, and that show functionally has never gone off the air.
No.
So everyone sees that. Everyone is aware of Gremlins from that.
And the parodies that have
so
resulted
many.
from that, even though just one episode, yeah.
There was a great Simpsons one on the bus.
Yeah.
The Terror at 6.5 feet or something.
Yeah. Treehouse of Horror episode. Mm-hmm.
Now, see, this time, this is, again, super big deal in the RAF during the war. Mm-hmm. And an RAF pilot crashed in Libya by the name of Roald Dahl.
Ever heard of him?
You know, he was like, Roddy Gremlins.
Get these sodden things off my plane.
But he tried to make some lemonade out of that. So he wrote a story in which male gremlins were called gremlins and females were called fifanellas and child gremlins were called widgets. And he wrote a story about a family of gremlins. And he showed it to one of his commanding officers who thought it was interesting. And one way or another, it makes its way to Walt Disney, who buys the rights to it. And
just like everything else does.
Right. So the plan was they were going to make a feature-length movie out of this. Mm-hmm. So they worked on it. The problem is they couldn't find a way to make creatures who crashed airplanes lovable. It was a problem for them.
I don't know why.
Yeah. And then they were going to make an animated short. There was a book that was published under the Disney imprint about these guys. Called The Gremlins. And during the war, Disney even had some of his artists make nose art for bombers that featured Fifanella. So then it got scaled back to just a short, and then they were like, we just can't do it. It's not going to happen. But the book was popular. It kind of forwarded this idea of the Gremlins. Warner Brothers, I don't know if it was a Tex Avery or not, but Warner Brothers did create a Gremlin cartoon. It was an animated short, and it was Bugs Bunny versus the Gremlin, and the Gremlin whooped Bugs Bunny's ass up and down an airplane.
Yep, it was called Falling Hair.
Yeah,
was the name of it. Are you okay, Mr. Bunny Rabbit?
That was the best part. He was like the weirdest little nerd that could not be defeated.
Yeah.
It's worth Googling. Do it.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. You can find a ton of that cartoon. It's like 8 minutes long. Pretty silly. Man, Bugs Bunny gets real pissed by this gremlin.
Yeah, I'll say this. Everybody likes Bugs Bunny, but it's kind of nice to see him get his ass kicked for once.
Yeah. It's just gremlins. They're just one step ahead of you.
Yeah, you can't beat them. They're little fairies.
There was also, I did see one thing that said maybe they have a touch of psychic power in that sense. knowing what the pilots are going to do before they do it so that they can uck with their shit.
Yeah, so they can more accurately make them miserable.
Right.
You got to be good at what you do, people.
Sure. So that's your gremlin for you, and then you get to obviously. I think everybody knows I think most everybody knows the '80s movie Gremlins.
Oh yeah, and the spin-off cereal, Gremlin cereal,
and the everything merchandise.
Oh yeah, that was a ridiculously merchandised movie. There was Gremlins everything for a while.
Of course, there's gremlins that show up in pop culture and all kinds of different things these days, including, like we said, Harry Potter.
Yep,
they're in there. World of Warcraft.
Oh, any fantasy thing.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, video games use goblins like crazy. You can actually be goblins in World of Warcraft.
True.
You can go ahead and say that's who I choose. Willow hates goblins. Threw an acorn at one.
Yeah, and like we said, goblins, gremlins, they're not exactly the same thing, but they're close enough in the fantasy world, I think.
Yeah.
If someone says goblins and gremlins interchangeably, in your head, you'll know
that person's crazy, because why are they talking about goblins and gremlins that much? You'll know that you should probably only see them during daylight and in crowded areas.
Right.
That's what you should take.
Maybe
from
a
that.
Burger King.
Yeah.
Get yourself a Whopper while you're at it.
Exactly.
Burger King sponsor us. But you'll know in your head, maybe you know what the difference is. But let's talk about a certain encounter that some folks had.
Oh yeah. Flora.
Speaking of goblin gremlins,
little Flora County flavor here.
We're going to be talking about the Kelly-Hopkinsville Goblins. Now, this happened between the small town of Kelly and the town of Hopkinsville in Christian County, Kentucky, in the fall of 1955. Two families on a rural farm reported a very strange encounter.
Very strange indeed, and very prolonged.
Yeah, very detailed as well. There were, I think, a total of 7 people that claimed to see creatures that resembled gremlins one night. Now, it's since been renamed, a number of different derivations of the Kelly-Hopkinsville Goblins.
Right.
But for our intents and purposes, they're described very much like how our description of gremlins went.
Yep.
And I think they're using gremlin, goblin interchangeably as well.
With and you'll see that if you look this up online, a lot of people will also refer to it as the Kelly-Hopkins alien incident.
Sure.
There's a lot of. This is one of the things that no one really knew what happened. And so some people say whoever reads it puts their own stamp on it. You could I think even conceivably say that the descriptions of these things and the drawings that they made were sort of Gray-esque.
A little bit, or at least sort of like Little Green Men from Mars kind of dealio. Right. This definitely takes a dip into the old UFO pool and cools off a little bit.
Ooh, it's warm.
So, with no running water at the farmhouse, a visitor named Billy Ray Taylor, visitor of the family that was living there, went outside in the evening for a drink of water. They had an old-fashioned pump. He went out to get a pump of water. Saw some strange lights in the sky, and what he described as some kind of craft, a disc with lights of all colors of the rainbow, so he says. Well, he goes inside and tells everybody. Nobody believes him, of course, because why would you, idiot?
Also, it's moonshine country. You don't know if he's sober or not. Turns out he was sober the whole time, but at this time, no one knew.
About an hour later, strange noises started coming from outside, and then the family dog began to bark. After it had barked a little bit, it hid under the house, and the patriarch of the family, Elmer, Lucky, Sutton, and Billy Ray, went out with guns, like you do in Kentucky.
Every Elmer and Billy Ray have guns.
Yeah. They saw a creature emerge from the trees. It was about a 3-foot tall creature with upright pointed ears, thin limbs, claw-like hands, and it was silvery in color, or at least wearing something that was metallic. They said it seemed to float above the ground and move with a swaying motion of its hips, almost as if it were wading through water. As it got closer, the men did what any Kentuckian would probably do.
Light them up.
They opened fire on it.
These colors don't run, motherfucker.
Ask it what it is. Okay.
It don't answer.
They said there was a metal sound, almost as of a piece of metal rolling around in a metal drum. Mm-hmm. And then the creature flipped backwards and fled into the woods. So they think they hit it and flipped it, but then it just took off.
Huh.
So they went to follow it, to see if they had wounded it or if they needed to finish it off or whatever. And as they got off the porch, they looked up and they saw one on the awning of the porch.
It was there all along, sillies.
Hey, what are y'all shooting at? Oh, that's my brother. Stop it. Y'all don't hurt it.
Run, Dale Sparn. Run. They ain't your friends.
So, Dave, what do you think they did then?
Oh, you turn around and open fire again.
They shot it,
Yep.
And they got similar results, although this one, when it flipped off the edge of the awning, it kind of floated to the ground. And then it took off. They went inside.
Clearly, it cast a feather fall spell on itself. It's one of the minor arcana, and it was still had a few action points left in the round. Obviously, Elmer Sutton was lucky for a reason, because he rolled initiative. Although, bad luck, Elmer, your shotgun, while devastating at close distances, was not meant for long-range sniper fire.
Jesus, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do that again.
I mean, we're obviously not making fun of people like that because we know all the terms.
How else would I know that? I am that person.
So they ran inside, and then a couple minutes later, somebody saw one of them peering in through a window, Mothman style.
Oh.
So what did they do? What'd they do?
Open fire through the window.
They shot it.
I just want someone. It's like someone in the house's job that they didn't have enough guns to go around, and their job was to just go light them up.
There it is. There's one.
Get him.
Get him. I'm sure it was. There was some loud scurrying that was heard on the roof. And then over the next few hours, the families said that the creatures would approach the home or maybe pop up at a window. And then what did they do?
Light them up.
They got shot.
Yeah.
But the shots didn't seem to hurt them. And
It's a great big game of intergalactic whack-a-mole.
It seems like, according to the accounts, that it was almost like the creatures started playing a game with them.
Right.
Like, look, can you shoot me here? Go up on the roof.
Pa, I'm starting to get the impression that they's just toying with us.
Now, they were unsure how many creatures there were. Some claims say there were 12 to 15 of them, although apparently only 2 were ever seen at one time together. So who knows? But yeah, like we said, when they were shot from a high place like the roof, they would float to the ground. Otherwise, they just kind of spin backwards and then take off.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. So the family, after being terrorized for a few hours, they decided to get in their old cars and head on down to the police. So they did. They all piled in a couple cars and shot off to the police station. And apparently, they came back with about 20 police.
They came back with a small army of local, county, and National Guard, military police.
Yeah, there were some from the Army base, I believe.
They came back with
State troopers may have been with them.
Yeah. Neighborhood watch.
There was some hobo that was hitching a ride.
Is it an old-fashioned looking? I'm going to beat him with my bindle.
So when they got back there, not a thing in sight. The authorities observed that there was damage that had been done, and there was plenty of spent ammo, and the family was clearly terrified. Something had happened to spook them pretty bad. But
nobody saw anything.
Nobody was there, so the authorities left after a while.
Yeah, it was like 2 a.m. They finally just like, well, nothing we can do, and that was the end of it. There was nothing else
except
that what
the creatures came back.
Yeah, like real bastards. Hey,
And
we saw all your friends, and we don't think they believe you, but we come back.
we're coming back. We're gonna show you we're real. We're gonna stay till about dawn. We're gonna head out here when there's some light.
So that was their whole night spent with these things skittering around on the roof.
Yeah, and they came back. They stayed till about the break of dawn, and then they were never seen again. And people believe them, but then they how do you believe a story like that?
Right.
But it ended up that the family that lived there had to pack up and move. I think they moved to Indiana because they couldn't take, the lookers coming in and being like, "Hey, what happened here? Is this where you shot them things?"
Yeah. I heard y'all had an all-night standoff with forces you barely could understand. Is that it?
Y'all charge admission?
And then the story gets twisted. Hey, I heard that the circus was in town, but that they fought you guys because you guys because they wanted to believe in devil. Is that what happened?
I heard that a bunch of Democrats came in here and tried to fornicate with you, and you fought them off with just sticks and boards.
Is this where you got that piece of that mold on the wall looks like Jesus? It just got so bad. Nothing made sense after a while. Y'all faith healers?
Hey, y'all got that piece of toast that has Apostle Paul on it? Here's the silly part. According to whichever source you look at, the neighbors are said to have corroborated the noises and the sights, the gunfire and seeing lights in the sky, weird stuff like that. But there's also sources that say the neighbors didn't hear hardly anything. They heard maybe a few shots and thought it was like firecrackers or something, but didn't see any weird anomalous sights.
Huh.
So that kind of has gotten bastardized over the years, that nobody's quite sure what happened.
It's probably for the best if the neighbors didn't hear anything, because maybe what if they'd come over and they're like, well, I don't know, just go knock on the door or look in a window, see if they're okay.
Don't forget your hat with the pointy ears.
You might
want
to
wear this real reflective gray stuff. You don't want to not be seen.
Yeah, make sure they can see you. Try getting up on the roof.
Here, wear your yellow glasses. I know how you get.
With the flashlights over them.
Don't hurt your feet now. Walk real side to side. Just shimmy through.
Just sashay on up.
Now, apparently the best explanation that people have, if you don't want to go for gremlins or aliens, is that Billy Ray saw a shooting star, exaggerated that, and then they were attacked all night by great horned owls.
Great horned owls. That's entirely plausible, because it's established that sometimes they'll just harass a house all night, and that they are impervious to shotgun blasts,
and not scared of the sound either.
Not at all. No. At least it wasn't the sandhill crane. That's the best I can say about that bunk ass theory.
That Bullstein theory.
That is a bullstone.
Owls?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Owls?
They're curious. They're flying cats, really. Those owls are.
And people have been, well, the great horned owl hunts between 6 and 7 p.m. at night. Well, yeah, that would explain why they kept coming back at them when they were getting shot at.
Yeah.
And looking in the windows and scattering on the roof and coming back after the police had gotten there. That explains all that. Of course, owls.
Right.
Perfect. Box it up with the fucking Ark of the Covenant, and let's just move on. Crystal skulls now. Hey, you guys like crystal skulls?
The other thing is this: these guys, they live in the country. There is no critter that they haven't seen. They don't get spooked when something runs across their porch. They're actually far less inclined to panic than we are now.
Probably.
I saw an opossum once outside of my apartment here, and it skeeved me out like nothing else. Those people don't care about that. They've seen all the animals that live in the area. They don't get hysterical about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like it was pretty clearly observed that they were terrified.
Mm-hmm. And an owl would have gotten shot. That's
multiple owls would have gotten shot. You would,
right.
and there would be owl carcasses. And
they would have gotten at least one, right?
Unless they're future owls.
Oh, clad in liquid metal, flying through the ages to harass hillbillies. That's where America's going.
The stupid as Occam's razor theory even says that these things are aliens.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that is true.
I think it's more plausible to have aliens than it would be to have killer owls that just can't stop attacking and are impervious to bullets.
But what I like is that they still are referred to as goblins.
They're referred to as goblins,
Thus, their inclusion here.
and sometimes gremlins.
But I like that they were, by hearing the story, it sounds pretty alien-y to me, right? But these people were like, no, people are going to say we're crazy if we say aliens attacked us. Goblins. Wait.
Hey, y'all. Goblins?
Goblins. You feel bad for them because something
Right.
scared them.
Terrified them.
And people say they weren't the type of people to make it up. They didn't get any financial gain out of it. You know, they even packed up and moved, like I said, because they wanted to get away from it, you know.
Yeah.
It's just it's definitely weird. And there's no connection necessarily between the dude saying he saw, you know, the disc with the lights and then these things.
Right.
Just so happened that they happen within the same time frame. But who's to say? You know, people say again, well, maybe there was a meteor shower going on, or there's some kind of shooting star that was just pretty bright at the time or something, and then owls attacked them.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, it's a fun story,
Right. Yeah.
nonetheless.
That's a good Kentucky campfire story.
Yeah.
We should have saved that for another episode. In retrospect,
In terms of explanations of gremlins, did you find much?
I did, and this makes good sense. Again, I mentioned this earlier. So many people were suddenly flying, and aircraft were being produced in the United States at the same rate as automobiles. I mean, they were just flying off assembly lines.
I get it.
Not to mention, you know, people who answered the draft. You know, they're trained now. Now you're an airplane mechanic. So there's going to be a lot of problems. There's going to be a lot of unexpected things. No one has experience, neither the pilots nor the mechanics, in doing this. So you're going to get all these weird things that no one can explain. And, you know, rather than sit like every day just beat themselves up about not knowing what they're doing, you say Gremlins did it, and then everyone can laugh and move on and get their job done. Not to mention the fact that these aircraft were not pressurized.
Sure.
They were
That's probably
flying
the biggest.
Yeah, they were flying at very high altitudes, very thin air. These guys flew very long missions. The U.S. government would issue them amphetamines, pep pills they called them, to keep pilots alert and awake. And as a matter of fact, to this day, they still do. And so it's a recipe for hallucination.
Yeah.
And some of these pilots would swear they would say, "I know, I saw the cable with tooth marks in it. I heard gremlins talking to each other.
There was a dude with a top hat on my propeller."
Right. You know, they would say these things. You know, exhaustion, fear, lack of oxygen. It was a recipe for hallucination.
Yeah.
And also something that helped them unload some of the already thorough burden of responsibility that they had.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously that's a great explanation for why some of this is going on, and something we haven't touched on before, I don't think, but goes right in line with this are the Foo Fighters, which we'll probably get to in a future episode. I think we've talked about it behind the scenes.
The phenomenon, not the band.
Right.
I mean, literally, unfortunately, we've come to a point in society where we have to say that. I like
get them
David Grohl. I think he's a cool guy, but I never.
I get them
listened to
confused
Foo Fighters.
with one other band. I can't even think of the other bands.
It's probably the Goo Goo Dolls.
That's the one.
Really?
Yeah.
I was making a joke.
I think that's the one, and I think it's Foo and Goo. I think that's
that'll
what
do it.
Well, anyway,
That'll Goo Goo do it.
so yeah, it scientifically, you can probably look at the concoction for hallucination, the hallucination that's going on, or the pilots just making stuff up, you know, to take the pressure off themselves and the workers, or could be fucking fairies.
Yeah, or could be gremlins.
Could be actual gremlins. And you know what? We will eventually get to a Fey folk episode, and maybe we'll talk some more.
Next time I talk to Ken Haidt, I'll ask him if the Germans also had gremlins.
I saw a little something about that. They thought, well, maybe it's something that the enemy is doing. This is what the Royal Air Force was saying. Maybe it's something the enemy is doing to us, but then they heard or talked to the enemy forces, and it's like, no, it's happening to them too. They're getting a lot of malfunctions and a lot of bullshit. So apparently it was happening to the other stuff. But I mean, not to say we can't talk to Ken Hyde about it.
Oh, no, you answered it. Now we won't.
All right. Sorry, Ken. Maybe next time.
So there we go.
So that's it, man. That's Gremlins. And
With a little taste, a little sidecar of goblins.
Yeah,
and aliens
yeah,
in there.
Yeah.
Kind of covered a lot of ground on that.
Yep. We sure did. What a fun suggestion.
Yeah, I was into it. No, we've actually already unloaded our listener mailbag for this week.
We have with our story filled
supplemental.
You guys, I hope you liked that. It was just bullshitting, but it was just supplemental nonetheless. So, since we don't have a mailbag to unload, why don't we unload a pun bag?
All right, let's get some puns going here. David, Flora, I option to you. Would you like to start, or would you like me to?
I'll do it.
Okay, go for it.
Because I'm magnanimous.
Oh.
All right. This one's for our Squatch lovers out there.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not a medium fan of Squatch, you might not get this one, but I'm going to go on and throw it out there anyway, because my option C is pretty bad.
Oh, okay.
I've got a shaky video that shows a mischievous spirit in the wild, although it may be just a short guy in a suit. It's called the Patterson Gremlin film.
Oh, nice. I like that. I've got one for you.
Okay.
I don't know if in your research you found that in 1955 in rural Oklahoma, a family was terrorized all night by the visitor that they didn't know. And it was a genial British actor, and it was the Anthony Hopkins incident. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was all night long. He just kept popping up at windows. They tried to shoot him to no effect.
Impervious. And when the bullets hit him, they just heard the sound.
Exactly.
Nice. All right. We have to. I'll have to set this one up by saying brownies again.
Oh, okay. All right. Bring it back.
I've got a friend who makes those tasteless jokes. You know the one that's like he's making a joke just after 9/11.
Oh,
he's making the joke after the Boston bombing. You know, it's that friend.
Yeah.
You can't seem to get rid of him.
No.
You know, no matter how hard you try. It's the too soony.
Oh God. He does haunt you with his terrible jokes. Well, I've got
will haunt you too.
There's a further version of the gremlin.
Yeah.
And their job is actually, it's interesting, just as much of a nuisance. However, their job is to hold things together. They don't destroy. They keep everything together. And I don't know if you've ever been in this situation where you're with a lady.
Nope.
Nope. You've already lost me. Sometimes it's really difficult to unfasten a bra or unbuckle some pants, and it's because of femlins. They just hold it together. Femlins. They're there to vex you by holding the bra clasp.
And I'm gonna punch every one of them in every last face.
I should have led with that and ended with the Anthony Hopkins encounter.
Oh, them's puns for you.
Them's puns up in your grill.
Send us yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can come up with something better than that.
Yeah. Now, wait, I've got a call to arms.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
It's true.
You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I want each and every one of our magnificent listeners.
Hello, is arms there?
Oh, good God. Don't you? No, it's over. Puns is over.
Puns is never over.
Puns never sleeps.
These puns don't run.
Puns is ever watchful. No, we have a live performance of sorts on Friday, September 20th at Comedy Sports at midnight. So if you live in, on, or near the Chicago area, you should come check out our amazing show.
We're going to be guests on the talk show Talk Hard. That's midnight Friday, September 20th, Comedy Sports Theater. We've been asked by Jamie Campbell, the host, to come and blib blab about Blurry Photos.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip flarp and
That should be fun. It's a talk show format, so they're going to have, I think, like maybe another guest and some kind of special musical thing, or maybe I don't know. They do all sorts of stuff. But
yeah. So come on out. That would be awesome to see you, and we could grab a beer afterwards.
Yeah, and I could give you a Dr. Professional business card, even though you already know everything about the podcast.
Well,
probably.
then you can just pay it forward.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's something that's popped up.
That's what we're doing. Other than that, though, take up your spears and swords and shields and join the like war that Dave has kicked up with Fairpoint Podcast.
Yeah.
They called your ass out in this last episode.
Oh,
dude.
I haven't listened to it yet.
They have called you out.
How did I start it? I don't remember. I mean, I'm sure I did. I'm not denying it. I just don't remember. That's how casually I kick up shit.
You started a like war, and then you're like, oh, maybe I should have thought this through.
That sounds about right.
Dude, too late. They're
like done.
Yeah, because they're already kicking our asses at it. So,
well, of course, that's why.
So if you don't have a like gun, why don't you brandish your like saber? And mow down the competition.
Puns never sleep. That's what we've learned today. If we had a title for our podcast today, it would be Puns Never Sleep. Man. Get on the Facebook and like us. We're apparently in some sort of swinging dick match with the
pissing contest of Fairpoint.
The
podcast.
swear folks at Fairpoint Podcast.
The swear folks.
Well, whatever.
It works.
Swell folks at Fairpoint Podcast. But from this point forward, we are mortal enemies. But we're using you as our proxy soldiers. Rather than resort to fisticuffery, we will just be fighting it out on the Faces books with likes. So please just click like. That's simple.
If you already have, then tell that parent that you have that's on Facebook, but they don't really know what they're doing. Just be like, here, I'll do this for you. Or here's the instructions on how to do it. Yeah, get us some fake likes. We don't care.
We don't at all. This is a numbers game, and so far they started ahead. That's why they did this.
That's why they were like, okay, we'll accept.
Right. I just made a flippant offhand comment, and then they were like, to battle!
Like fisticuffery.
Yeah, see? I had no idea the power of my offhand comments.
It's pretty powerful, dude. Yep. So, yeah, get those lightsabers out and brush it. I'm not going to stop that. I love it.
That's a good one. It's a really good one. It's worth repeating.
It cauterizes the wound.
Yeah, no blood.
No blood.
So that's what we've got going in our neck of the woods, and we're back on the regular schedule of podcastery. And people, it's Blurry Photos. And we're around on the corner. We're looking October right in the face. That's our month.
El monto de Blurry Photo.
Oh,
I know año.
Well,
I don't know month for some reason.
Can you say 1/12 of one año?
Nope.
Well,
doce de año. Octubre. Sabro.
But it's not just Sabados. It's every single day of the week. All the dias.
It's Martes. We usually come out on Martes.
Wow.
Oh, man. Really picking up steam here at the end.
Toot toot.
iTunes, you know what to do there. Go and subscribe and
star
it and rate us. Thank you to those of you who have rated us. It's
thank you very much.
And YouTube, we're on there.
Keep your suggestions coming in.
Please do.
That's why we're doing this episode tonight. Like, we really do your suggestions. We like those.
Also, your stories. If you got any fun stories, please share them with us. And questions, comments, whatever you want, send them our way.
And I got a shout out. I mean, that we've got some serious #1 fan competition.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Our listener Johnny, whose anonymity I'll protect.
Okay.
We'll call him Johnny Robots. That's a pretty cool name. Might be our #1 fan.
Oh.
He has, in the space of just a few, like 2 or 3 weeks, listened to all of our podcasts and is doing a bang-up job of recommending it to others. So
great. Well, thank you.
Tip of the hat to Johnny Robots.
Thanks, Johnny Robots. Robots?
Johnny Robots.
Thanks, Joni Robots.
Johnny's a man. Joni's a woman.
You heard me.
So there's our shout-outs.
Awesome.
And eternal shout-outs to our other nominal staff contributors, Gray Cat.
Bob.
Yep.
Greg Bach?
Greg Bach, absolutely. So thank you all. Emerson.
Emerson.
Oh shoot! See now I feel like if I leave somebody out, they're gonna be like, "But what about me?"
Way to go, dude.
I've been drinking.
Offhand comments.
You're right.
Fisticuffery.
Offhand comments lead to fisticuffery.
Oh, great. Hey, StumbleUpon. So for this episode of Blurry Photos.
I'm Dave. Pretty ruddy, unlikely Stecco.
And I'm David. Where's my bowl of cream, Flora?
Bloody hell.
So, where were we?
Bag, sing, rag, kitty sack. You have to bleep this.
Says you.
Yeah, that's right. Damn. Should have thrown some slurs in there.
My favorite was rag.
Oh God, no! That was like the full Foley. No.